I've been meaning to do this for quite some time over on YouTube. Some of you guys just leave us these like great comments, and I want to do a full just episode on that. But one of the ones I thought I'd just pull up here. There's this lady. Her name is Lady Ashley of Noth, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Noth.
No,
I can never pronounce it right. It's where Missandei's from, Sunday.
Right.
However they pronounce it in the show, I can't pronounce it correctly, as everyone said. But anyway, so she leaves this comments literally on all of her videos, and they're all just these like massive essays. And I wanted to start diving into some of these as well as some of the other ones. She just comes to mind because she's always showing us the love here.
Yeah.
So we did a thing with Nikki, right?
Yes.
Kale Easy, who you guys should all check out. And anyway, so we were doing this big House Lannister thing, and she left us a comment here, and I thought this was kind of fun. So that we were specifically kind of talking about Tyrion in this little segment. And we were talking about, will Tyrion become like the hand of the queen to Daenerys? So she kind of left a comment here. She said, what a fun episode. To my mind, the ideal scenario from Varys and Illyrio's perspective would be if Dany / false Aegon were to get married, right? Then you could have a peaceful and fervent Blackfyre rebellion. However, due to a Tyrion persuading young Griff, false Aegon, to go to Westeros without her, that may not happen. I can envision a scenario in which young Griff tries to hold out for a Daenerys marriage, but has to marry somebody else. Coughs Sansa, right? Perhaps, Sansa, to secure an army before Daenerys gets there. If that scenario happens, I don't envision Dany wanting to marry anyone when she shows up. So the two end up being pit against each other as rivals, throwing years of elaborate scheming down the drain, all due to Tyrion's interference. If none of this happens at some point, I do expect things to take a climactic turn between the two. In The Winds of Winter, Arion 1, we meet a character who gets prophetic dreams, Tiora Tolland, and she dreamt that dragons were dancing, and everywhere the dragons danced, people died. I don't think Jon would fight Daenerys, so is young Griff the only other option? So in this scenario, it's like, man, Tyrion. What if Tyrion foils all of Illyrio and Varys' planning, perhaps? Because young Griff may have to marry somebody first. Perhaps his war goes south a little bit, or perhaps he realizes he needs an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be Dany versus young Griff. Beware the Mummer's dragon.
Right. It would be kind of ironic that Varys sets Tyrion free, helps him. They become friends. In the beginning, I think Tyrion. You go back to this in A Clash of Kings. It's like he's they're in opposition. They're friends. They have respect for each other, but it's almost too much. Tyrion is too much like Tywin. He does bring a steady hand in he helps sort of helps Cersei out, and he straightens things out in King's Landing. So now then he gets in trouble, and Varys is all interlocked in the whole Shay business. He knows it's all wrong. Wouldn't surprise me also if he had his friend imprisoned in some way. But then he helps him. He does help him, send him out, put him in exile. He likes Tyrion. It's whatever. He has a soft spot for, those just who are less fortunate, whatever. And so he sends him out. And then ironically, now he's the guy who convinces, he messes up Illyrio and Varys' plans in sending young Griff back, as Ashley says, too soon before he's able to kind of go see Dany. And that could be a huge mess up. And then now they're advising and guiding young Griff with John Connington, and Tyrion, this guy that Varys set free, is now helping Dany, and it's not going to plan, right? It's not going the way they want it to go. And they've been working on this for years. They've been laying this scheme down. They've been plotting since Game of Thrones, Illyrio and Varys. So to see that all go, to be squandered, I guess, if you will, because Varys had a soft spot for Tyrion and finally got him out of the way, got him in chains, and then lets him go. And he comes back and he's this menace. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and I guess what happens to Varys in that scenario? How does he respond? Because remember, the Varys we see in the show is very different from the Varys we see in the books. There's way more scheming involved. Varys in the show just sort of is like, for the realm. Okay. Varys in the books. Yeah, Varys in the books has clearly been planning this thing. I mean, he kills Kevin Lannister. It's such a big difference. And that's what he just did. And he's proclaiming at the end, the final chapter we have, because the Winds of Winter sample chapters, right, are still just, to be fair, sample chapters that George has even sort of said in that big thing that he's had to rewrite a lot of that stuff too.
Yeah.
So who knows exactly with those, but the final chapter we have, like, officially, is Varys killing Kevin and saying, "Oh, I've been preparing. Get ready. Like, well, you're dead.
Right.
You're going to be dead, but just so you know." I mean, he specifically wants to tell Kevin Lannister about the Targaryens are coming back as the last thing Kevin Lannister will ever hear in his life.
And that's when you know that a character is typically speaking the truth to a dead man.
Yes.
You know, this will go with him to his grave. And Varys also controls the in-between spaces, you know, beyond the walls, if you will. He knows there's no little birds listening and stuff like that. He's the guy. So he speaks this truth, and yeah, you can see that he's invested, very much invested in this. You know, won't surprise me at all if, like the show, Varys ends up on the other side of a dragon. You know, he ends up. Dany was the one who, right? I mean, he like betrays Dany in some way. So I think that's like the way the showrunners try to tie together what could be an ultimate sort of confrontation between Dany and Varys, or Dany and Young Griff. You know, like that could be.
Right. What if, what if, you know, what if the note that George gave them, right, you know, as his outline is, well, Varys is killed by Dany. Well, Dany could kill him because he's a true enemy, not like he was working for her and then betrays her.
Exactly. He's working with Young Griff, who she then ends up going to fight, to battle with, and he's not truly a dragon. He's maybe not really Aegon, or whatever. Although I like the idea that he is. But either way, I could totally see him ending up on the other side of that and being someone who is consumed. And then Tyrion is in opposition to him. It could go on for a while. There could be a lot of political jabbing back and forth.
So what happens in that scenario if maybe, you know, I don't know that Sansa's gonna marry Young Griff, but she could get sort of promised to him, and then she actually she does actually marry Tyrion, but it's like really she doesn't marry any of the people, and that would still fit
Absolutely.
of that. I mean, even regardless of that theory, like the whole, like, the 5 nights, whatever.
Turney Ashford
theory. Turney Ashford theory. It still is a very likely candidate that Young Griff could marry Sansa. She's a little bit younger. They're probably roughly the same age.
Yeah, it still works. And I think, even like you said, other people she's been betrothed to, right?
Yeah. Although I guess
she never married Joffrey.
She didn't. In this scenario though, is Sansa likely to want to marry a Targaryen? Like, the Targaryens the Targaryens killed her uncle and her grandfather.
Right. No, I think it's Baelish. I think at this point it would still have to be Peter Baelish is still in control to some degree. Right? He would have to still be,
because in the show he like forcefully marries her off to Ramsay. Right. So this could be the scenario in which he sort of forcefully marries her off to Young Griff.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And right now, I mean, in the book, he's sort of she's gonna be the whole Harry the Heir is rolling into the Vale, and it looks like he's gonna try to, set those.
That doesn't mean I don't think she's actually gonna marry him though. I think she could get promised or something to him.
I think he could even be killed in that whole tourney too. Like, things happen and people die, and it's whatever, and it's just like, wow. So, but yes, it would still be kind of cool if she was betrothed to him, but yet far away. There was, again, all of these things were like, Viserys was promised to Arianne Martell, and like that was just a promise. That was just a note when they're babes. Is just kind of this agreement, this known thing. So yeah, those are just assurances made between these higher lords, and really, she probably will have next to nothing to do with him. Might not even have to go to King's Landing, for a time. Just will be sending support. Maybe she has to send some of the Knights of the Vale there or something. But I think Dany is going to be in opposition to, maybe not at first. They might try to be like work together. And I think it would be very interesting if like Varys and Illyria are like, okay, yeah, this is going to work, right? And she's like, yeah, but I'm not marrying him. I'm just queen. He can be next in line. And since I don't have children, he can be at Dragonstone. And they don't like that. They maybe don't want that. But remember, again, she was sold to Khal Drogo. And then Illyrio sends ships for her to come back. She does not come back. She does not, I don't believe, really trust or care for, even though he cared for her for many years and stuff like that and stuff. He's had other plans. She's been, again, she's a woman too. That's one of the things is that they, in Westeros, like it's what the Dornish struggle with. They want Myrcella Baratheon to take the throne. That's, you can have a princess of Dorne and a prince of Dorne, but by God, you can't have a ruling queen. It's the same thing with Rhaenys, or I'm sorry, how would I keep blanking on her name? Dance of Dragons. Anyways, yeah, just like, the whole Council of 101 AC. That's the whole thing, is that women can't sit in a ruling seat in Westeros.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting, good comment though. Just to see them working against one another would be, I think, fascinating, because Tyrion's very smart. Varys is very smart. They have their Tyrion doesn't have a spy network sort of like Varys does, so that would be interesting. He does seem to have her, and that's in King's Landing, and where he's fled from there. So I think the fact that he's left King's Landing and is on the run, maybe when he comes back, he can establish it pretty quickly. But still, he and Tyrion now don't have their their network set up, and so maybe that puts them on more even footing. So
yeah,
Rhaenyra is what I was trying to think of. Sorry.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, obviously, how it unfolds when we get it. But I do think, the idea, because Varys is definitely going down the path of Young Griff is gonna be the deal, and then you potentially set up this marriage alliance. Is in that scenario though, is Varys and Baelish working together?
Yeah, that would be weird, because he's another factor. That would be.
It could be something where Baelish tries to do it, but it doesn't happen. One, I just don't think Sansa's gonna end up marrying him, but it could be Varys is like, no, I mean, absolutely not, because he knows if he finds out that. Or maybe that could be the thing that sets up the confrontation between them, because I have always felt that in the books it's gonna Baelish and Varys are gonna have a
confrontation.
That's their opposing force.
Yeah, it does seem like that's been building. That was something that was going to be. And what's weird about it is that there's definitely an interesting dynamic between Tyrion and Varys being friends, being split, now being enemies. That's very interesting. But like, Baelish has always been in opposition sort of to Varys. Varys wants to better the realm, and Peter Baelish seems to just want power. He just wants it all. He would be an agent of, like, that's someone that Varys could use as chaos. Like, he's so wants power and stuff like that he wants to kind of that he could be pulled in one direction if he senses there's a chance to make a claim to get a title or to move up. So Varys sort of knows that about him. Varys is very well cloaked, very well. It's hard to understand his motivations until you see that Kevin Lannister chapter, and then he is super tied to this Young Griff plot and Illyrio. So now and that's what you needed, though. You eventually, George had to do that. He had to tie Varys to something. What does it mean to be fighting for the realm? And that he believes in this individual, this person, and he wants to see a return to. I mean, he fought seemingly very, very much so for Aerys the Mad King. Didn't want Tywin Lannister coming in there. Warned him. Knew these things, and so was sort of partial to the Targaryens, I guess, if you will. And then now he wants to see them restored, whether that's a Blackfyre or not. But what is Baelish after? He just seems to be, a guy who wants to control things, and he was mocked. He was made fun of. He was almost cut open by Brandon Stark, and he wanted Catelyn Tully. Now he has Sansa, her daughter, but then he wants more and more power. He doesn't want to be the laughing stock. He doesn't want to be Littlefinger, He wants to be Lord Baelish. He wants to be King Baelish, for crying out loud. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome. Interesting. It's gonna be great. I do think, and I'll go ahead and say it, I think we're closer. I think we're way closer than we think we are to Winds of Winter, my friend.
Wow. Every day we are closer.
Every day we get closer.
I mean, one of these days.
We're closer than we are 4 years ago when we started. So
right.